I was not planning on making a video about the Nothing Headphone 1, as it is named. Not because I think it's a bad product, but because there are a plethora of videos out there on the internet about the Nothing Headphone 1 and how they feel and how they sound and how they look. And what do I have to add, to that conversation? Plus, I just didn't really want to buy another pair of over-the-ear Bluetooth noise-canceling headphones. I haven't bought such a device in many years. In fact, it was well before the pandemic when I last bought a pair of Bluetooth ANC headphones, and I really haven't had a tremendous need to upgrade them or replace them. I don't travel a lot. And nowadays, if I want to cancel out noise, I mainly use my true wireless earbuds, or I have a pair of on-ear noise-canceling headphones that I really like. I have a pair of Marshalls that I really like. Because as a woman with a head that's, big hat size but short this way, I find that over-the-ear headphones tend to just be too big for me, even on their smallest size. So I usually default to the on-ear because those are usually smaller. The last pair of Bluetooth ANC headphones I bought were these, Bowers Wilkins PX. These are probably about 6, maybe even 7 years old at this point, because we're on the Px7, Px8. These are the PX, no number, just PX. These are the originals, and they're so well made. They've got metal and they've got real leather here inside the headband, and the cups are real leather, and they have buttons. So all the controls are here on the right cup, and you've got buttons for play and reverse and forward and pairing and setting the ANC levels. It's all here. There's no weird touch controls, and they look really nice. They're very well made. They're very sturdy. I've had these for many years, but you can see they still look really good, and they fit my head pretty well. A lot of times I'll get irritation with headphones that are too big because they'll sit right down here and they'll cause me irritation. But these fit my head and they don't cause me any discomfort. And so I've had these. I bought them when I worked in corporate America, and we sat in one of those lovely open floor plans. So I needed, to have something to listen to music and podcasts and block out the sound of all of the people on the floor. And at the time I bought these, they cost $400. That was a big expense for me. I wasn't spending a lot of money on audio like that for me to throw down $400 for headphones. I had done research. I had read the reviews, and everybody said, well, these sound good and the noise canceling's pretty good. And I got them, and I was honestly disappointed. Not so disappointed that I ended up returning them. I did obviously keep them. I've had them all this time, and I used them. But after a while, I realized a couple of things. I really didn't enjoy the sound as much as I'd hoped. And then number two, the idea of having $400 headphones laying around on my desk in an open floor plan at work, that didn't actually sit well with me. So I ended up picking up a much cheaper pair of ANC Bluetooth headphones, because when you are in a noisy place, the quality of the sound, less of an issue, honestly. So I used those at work until the pandemic hit and we all came back home, and I worked from home for the rest of the time that I worked in that job. And so I would use these periodically, at home to block out noise. But over the years, it was really all about in-ear true wireless noise-canceling earbuds that really did the job and were much easier to travel with and carry around. So I didn't need another pair of ANC Bluetooth headphones because I'm not really using the ones I have. And plus, I didn't really love the ones I had. But then I started thinking about it. It's 6 years or so since I've last bought a pair of on-ear Bluetooth headphones. What have the advancements been like in the past 6 years? Maybe I should know. Maybe I should actually try out these headphones that everybody's raving about or ranting about, depending on your perspective. How far have we come? What has 6 years brought us with Bluetooth ANC? So right before Prime Day, I think it was right before Prime Day, these went, or maybe it was right after Prime Day, these went on sale a little tiny discount, maybe $30, $40 off. But there were open box items available, and I love a good open box deal. So, if you buy open box and the item's on sale, then you get a discount on top of that discount. And so when I was able to pick these up, and I think I had rewards points, so I was able to pick them up for just over $200. I'm like, all right, I'll try them. They're already open box. I won't feel bad about returning them if I don't like them. And they are interesting looking, right? It's a very different shape with these rectangular, square looking pieces that kind of do look like cassette tapes. I don't mind the look. I'll tell you what I really like about these headphones, even more so than with the PX, is how low profile they are, how close they sit to the head, right? So they're not these big bulbous things that stick out. They fit my head kind of, sort of. They do come lower down here, but I can tell you that's less about the size of the headband, and it's more about the size of the ear cup. And I don't know if I'll be able to show this adequately, but if I line these up, hopefully you can see there's probably a good 1/2 inch of an extra space on this side. If I've got them lined up on this side, there's a good 1/2 inch space on this side that these are longer because they've got these rectangular bases. So even though they're probably about the same, yeah, they're probably about the same length from a headband perspective, the ear cup is longer, so they sit lower. So after a while, I do get a little bit of discomfort down here, but it's not as bad as some other headphones I've tried. But I really do like how thin they are this way and how flat they look on your head. It was one of the things that struck me when I was watching other people's videos. It's like, those look really good on your head. They don't, even though they're kind of strange from the side, even in the white. I think the black look a little less crazy than the whites do, but the black ones, obviously, you're going to be cleaning these a lot because this cassette tape thing is shiny plastic, and man, does it collect fingerprints. So 6 years of advancement, right? So let's talk about it. I'll try to get through this as quickly as possible because you already know everything you need to know about these headphones, right? So the big thing, ANC and sound. I'm going to tell you that the noise canceling effectiveness of the Nothing, I wouldn't say is night and day different than the PX. The PX weren't the state-of-the-art ANC headphones at the time. I think that still probably belonged to Sony. I think they probably had their M2s, the Mark IIs, the WH-1000, MX, whatever they are, 2s were probably out at the time I bought the PX, maybe the 1s or the 2s. And Sony still had really better ANC than most. Bose and Sony, as today, had better ANC. But the PX had really good ANC for its time. It was really all about the sound that made me buy the PX over the Sony. And the look, you know, vanity sometimes sinks in. The ANC on the Nothing is, again, not so much that it's so much more effective and it's so much more capable of blocking out sound is it does it without the white noise. So one of the things that I dislike the most about ANC on the PX is you get this white noise. As soon as you turn ANC on, it's like, and it's distracting, which I guess honestly for some people that might be a plus. If you're in a noisy place, the white noise might help, you know, block out even more of that extraneous noise more. I just like my music to be on a nice quiet background, so that white noise bothered me even back then, and it bothers me even more now because these don't have that. These don't have that white noise with the ANC, and they have a really good transparency mode that also isn't so laden down with that white noise. I can put it in transparency mode and hear what's going on around me, and I don't feel like I hear that same hiss that I can't stand with some other headphones that have transparency. You'll get that hiss. So you have levels on both of ANC. I would give the nod to the Nothing because of that lack of white noise. It just provides a nicer background for your music or your audio. And then the next thing would be the sound, right? How far have we come in 6 years on sound? So again, the PX, I never really loved them for their sound. When I put them on to prepare for making this video, I was kind of struck at, you know, how good they actually do sound even 6-7 years later. They don't sound bad. What I never really liked about the PX was there's this veil over the sound. It's almost like you feel like you're listening in a tunnel somewhat. It's very difficult to explain, but there's this cloudiness over the whole presentation of the sound. if you can put the cloudiness away, everything's there, right? The instruments and the presentation and the blend and the balance, it's all actually pretty good. The presentation in space, at the time these were, renowned for their sound staging. Sure, if you've watched any of my other videos, you know how I feel about soundstage. And I have thoughts that I'm not going to go into here. But the staging, the presentation of the sound, actually really good. And if I just block out that cloudiness over the sound, they sound good. But then when I put the Nothing on, I'm immediately struck by how much more clarity I get out of these. I don't have the veil is gone, and I can enjoy the music without feeling like I'm in that tunnel. I don't have that feeling. I don't have that sensation. Now, out of the box, the balance and the presentation of mids and treble and bass is different. You do get more of a mid bass kind of bump into the mids here, and the mids do feel pushed back. So if you're a person that's really into the vocals or certain instruments in that mid range, it did feel not as present as it did on the PX with these out of the box. Now, obviously the thing with the Nothing is you've got that fantastic EQ where you can, go in and select presets, but you can also take advantage of other people's expertise and load up QR codes. Nothing hosts a few QR codes for EQ presets on their community website. And if you have read reviews from some of the other sound outlets, like Sound Guys has a QR code. I think Linus worked with DMS to create a QR code for his review that's available on the Nothing community site. And there are other people who've created EQ presets that are also available on Nothing's community site. So the ability to create your own and tweak in a way that is just kind of unusual. There are a number of audiophile grade digital audio players that let you mess around with EQ and change Q factor in the way that you can do on Nothing, but on headphones, it's really kind of unusual. So if you're the kind of person who really likes to tweak with EQ, obviously you already know Nothing is definitely the way to go here. There's nothing really quite like that in this price range. So the ability to customize, and you can bring the mids back if you felt the mids were recessed. You can dial down the treble or bring up the bass. The ability to do that really sets the Nothing apart. So once I think I tried a few different ones, the Sound Guys one and the DMS one from Linus Tech Tips. And once I was able to get the mids back, I was like, well, why would I listen to the PX anymore, other than the fact that they're really pretty? So I didn't need these. I'm probably going to keep them because they just offer something different that I don't think a lot of other headphones in this price range offer. So you probably aren't quite in the same boat of not having bought a pair of ANC headphones in the 6 years or more. But if you are, I'd say these are something to consider dipping your toes into, especially if you're the kind of person who likes tweaking. If you're not a person who likes tweaking, or if you're a person who values noise canceling above everything else, you already know to go buy Sony or Bose, right? Or if you're in the Sonos ecosystem, you know to go buy the Sonos Ace. But if you're a person who really likes kind of tweaking sound, or you really love the quirky look of these, I'd say, especially if you can get them on sale, go for it, because they're reasonably well made, even though they're very plasticky. There's no leather and there's not a lot of metal. So compared to the PX, these are pretty cheap feeling, but they feel relatively well made. They do fold flat. They don't fold in, but neither do the PX. The PX don't fold in either, and they have that flat turnout, but they take up a lot more space. So I think it's worth at least trying, especially if you're like me and you don't like the idea of opening something and then returning it. If you can find open box to play around with and that makes you feel better about returning them if you don't like it, try it. I was pleasantly surprised. And like I said, I'm probably going to keep them, and I didn't need them. But I have them now, and this is where we are. So that's what I think. What do you think? Have you tried the Nothing headphones? Do you like them? Have you tried any of the Bowers and Wilkins PX versions over the years? Have you found them to be, a good experience? Do you still experience white noise? Do you still get that hiss? Curious. That's all I got, guys. Thanks for watching. This is an audio recording test using the Bowers Wilkins PX. These are ANC headphones, Bluetooth, from many years ago, 5 or 6 years ago, pre-pandemic. But this is what they sound like. They still look great after all these years, and they sound pretty decent. But how's the voice quality? Let's see if they have any mic canceling features. I'm going to turn on an air purifier on low. This is on low. I'm holding it right up to my mouth. It's on medium. And then this is on loud. And I'm going to turn it back off. I don't remember if the PX have any noise canceling features on the microphone, but that tells you how it performs, what you just heard. Again, the Bowers Wilkins PX, the originals. This is an audio recording test using the Nothing Headphone 1, a modern noise canceling Bluetooth headset. It is pretty interesting looking, but how does it sound from a vocal perspective? I'm going to test the microphone noise canceling capabilities with my usual air purifier test. I'm going to turn it on low. That's on low. I have it right in front of my face, like inches from my mouth. On medium. I can barely hear this myself, so I don't know how this is coming through. And then on loud. That's on loud. I can't hear the loud now, but or on the highest setting, I should say. Anyway, Nothing Headphone, air purifier on the highest setting. I'm going to turn it off. And I'm back. Do I sound better now? What do you think? Nothing Headphone 1.